Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of HorseShow360 podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in over the weeks. We have another great podcast organized for everybody today. I'm joined by Jess and Doug Payne. Thank you guys so much for joining us. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, this is awesome. I mean, we've been friends for a long time now, and I've definitely on my original list of guests of who to do a podcast with. You guys were definitely at the top of the list because I think you guys are so unique and bring some really cool, interesting takes to the conversation, equestrian world, having bridged both disciplines of the 3-day side and show jumping side. So
I appreciate it, but it took 20 plus episodes to get here, so I don't know how I'm feeling about that.
Well, see, you need to look at it like I needed to work the kinks out first before I had the.
God forbid that the tech person over here comes on early. He'll judge you.
For sure. For sure, you guys are judgy when it comes to my podcast or social media, Mr. Social Media King over here. But yeah, no, I definitely wanted to talk to you guys about a lot of different things. I think everybody would be interested to hear y'all's story and how it translates in the past and into the future and everything in this equestrian world. I think you guys are really the epitome of a family that can talk about the equestrian world and bridging all those multiple disciplines and everything like that. So it's I'm really curious to get your take on a few things. Can you guys give me a little bit of background on yourselves? How long you guys been together? How long you've been doing the whole family thing in this equestrian world? Yeah, whatever you guys want to share and your history in the sport.
Yeah.
So we've been married 11 years now, I guess, just over.
Congrats.
I guess it all started, we were in Aiken as we were when we were eventing and through the winter series, and a good group of friend of ours always hit up the Monday night seedy bowling alley. I was actually a partner of Jess's mom's on her bowling team.
My mom set us up.
So basically, I was really tight
awesome.
with Joan first. And
your mom
then,
knows what's up.
One thing leads to another. And Joan says, "Have you ever been to this great restaurant called Prime?" And I said, "No, I hadn't gone." And one thing, I don't even remember how it happened.
It
got
Prime?
Canceled.
Oh, yeah. My mom used to take us all
I love that place.
Oh,
Michelle and I,
great.
when we go to Aiken, we eat there every night.
Yeah, we've joined you. Yeah.
So for some reason, I don't know, the girls didn't want to go or whatever. She's like, "Just come over to the house. We'll just do it at the house." So I don't know. One thing leads to another, and yeah, we're here now.
So everybody would ask, like, "Well, have you met the parents and everything?" Oh yeah, I was friends with her mom first. Like, I'm totally in on the family.
That's awesome.
I mean, that's a pretty big advantage. Going into the marriage and the wedding, already hooked in with the mother-in-law. It's great.
My mom's a lot of fun, and yeah, she used to go bowling with us, and she's like, "I met the nicest guy," and she swears this day it wasn't a setup, it wasn't any of this, that she just had met a new friend that she wanted to like hang out with, and one thing leads to another. We're married, 2 children later, and my family is a little bit worsey, but not really. I've ridden around Kentucky a couple times in the 5-star and eventing, and then when we met, I had already done a Kentucky. I'd done the 5-star already, so then we got to share his first 5-star at Kentucky together, and then we wanted to build a family, and kind of I love to bring along the young ones and everything, and kind of a lot of the students and everything else. So yeah, we're kind of a unique situation. And then I grew up in the hunter jumper world. I grew up right outside of Franklin, Tennessee, where Brownland is. So I've always kind of been both disciplines, and Doug a little bit as well. And then for the last 10 years, kind of we've been making the progress over of we do the babies and then bring them up. So yeah.
Well, the best thing, my first 5-star at Kentucky was her third, I guess. And
my dad.
This is so great. So I end up having a 20 on cross country. Just it happens, right?
I had a not so good dressage score, but and I go slow.
Jess also loves to get her money's worth on course. Like there is no time. Time is not a constraint of hers, right? So we end up.
That's the same with
close.
Michelle. It's funny.
Michelle and I, we love it together. We go so slow together.
God, she is like the best woman rider I've ever seen. But she literally she's known for being the time fall queen, but she jumps more clear rounds than everybody. Let me tell you.
Right.
I'm there.
So we go into show jumping, right? And Jess, I don't know.
No, we were going in. You didn't have a rail in hand, but he was just ahead of me. And my dad told him that if he loved me, he'd have an extra rail or so that I could place, because it wasn't going to change in the placings. We were going to be 18th or 19th, like as long as we didn't go bowling, but
fall off.
or fall off. But we were pretty considerate. Like usually our horses were 4 faults or less. So he's like, just have an extra rail to like give her the buffer. And then that means you really love her. And I was like, Dad, this is inappropriate.
So did he?
No, he was
Smart.
So yeah, it was fun though. Our first Kentucky it was not my first, but our first Kentucky together was super fun that we were in the top 20, and it was fun though.
Yeah. So then my background, grew up certainly with horses. My mom is judged at 2 Olympic Games. She's judged in Rio and Hong Kong. Sister's
For
a
3-day?
5-star. What's that?
3-day
For
or
3-day.
what?
For 3-day, yeah.
Okay.
And then my sister's ridden through 5-star as well.
You got to remember you're talking to a show jumper here. So
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I'm like,
You're good.
And yeah, so I don't know. One thing leads to another. Never thought I'd be doing this. I have a degree in mechanical engineering and thought I'd be doing something along those lines. And opportunity presents itself and never look back. And this point, have competed at the sort of Grand Prix level of dressage.
so did you ride
Jumping.
when you were a young kid as well?
Yeah, we
or-
just grew up with it, right? My mom had a bunch of lessons. She judged a lot. So it was something that was just honestly in our backyard. We didn't have much in the way of pressure to do. It wasn't like we had strict lessons or any of that kind of thing. When we got a little more into it, we were involved with Pony Club. We had a great local club at the time. So we had a ton of instruction. I grew up in New Jersey, so we're about 10 minutes from Gladstone. And at the time, that was still a pretty solid hub of the team sports.
Sure.
And so we had access to a lot of coaching that we wouldn't have had really any other place in the country. So in that aspect it was really a wonderful place to grow up and to live. And yeah, so at this point I've ridden at the Grand Prix level in dressage, have done, I don't know how many 5-stars. I was lucky enough to go to the Pan Ams and the Olympic Games for eventing.
Seems like you just skipped a lot of things in between.
There's a lot of stuff happening.
Yeah, so I jumped a bunch of 5-stars, and
so then jumped through 5-star jumping. So I'm still we're transitioning, and how we've always gone about it is that we haven't ever had the pure financial backing to go ahead and just buy going horses. So the methodology that we've used over the past however many years in eventing was to try to get at least a weanling a year and develop those horses. And when they're sort of 5 coming 6, they're pretty legit. You don't know if they're going to be a top horse, but they're certainly going to be a really solid citizen. And we try to find partners that'll go in with those horses. So most of our horses that are competing at the top now, we have some sort of partnership, and we basically try to take that buy-in, which we keep intentionally low, to roll into the next baby. And so we have a continuous pipeline of talent coming. And the goal would be to represent the U.S. for the indefinite future.
So talk to me a little bit about, this has always interested me. Like, talk to me about like the business model in the 3-day world. Like, how does it work for a barn to be able to make it
I'm going
and
to tell
make
you
it
this,
at the level
it's
that you're doing?
extremely
And
challenging, because
what are the areas that you can do income besides like lessons and lessons, horse sales? Is it the
A
typical?
lot of clinics.
So yeah, clinics are great. Yeah, lessons obviously, and horses in training. I think it's
Clients.
extremely challenging, because you're, in many ways, and jumping's no different in this way, is that your competitive goals and your financial goals are nearly mutually exclusive. And you have to find the balance that, without having the opportunity to be in the ring at a top tier competition, obviously the demand for your services drops. And it's, so we end up for the
So
last.
what do you mean, for like listeners, what do you mean by that? So what you're saying is that you find a direct correlation to the level that you're competing at with the level of clients.
Yeah, for
and the
sure.
amount of
Because I
clients that
think
are willing to coach
if you
with you.
have
or-
the opportunity to compete at a top tier, so I mean, if you're lucky enough to be able to represent the U.S., it's a massive, massive help. But even being at a 5-star competition like Kentucky that's coming up here, I think you instantly, not only for your personal stuff, you're gaining a lot of experience, you're gaining the insight that would be unavailable to anyone else that isn't there riding. But then the demand side for clinics, for training, for sales, that sort of stuff, all of that tends to fall away. The more you're there, the more you're in the elite group, the higher that demand becomes, right? But obviously the challenge is, how do you pay for those horses? And it's extremely difficult. And I think in the end, we looked at the first, call it 20 years, we basically reinvested everything that we earned right back into our horsepower. And then, every once in a while, an odd situation works. We have a beautiful farm just north of Durham, North Carolina. And how that all happened, it was wild. We had a horse I bought him for $1 and bartered a couple months of training for him. He ended up being, what was he, 6 at Semur, which was a 4-star in France as an 8-year-old. We got an offer we couldn't turn down, and
which you
at the time nearly did, because
oh my God, did I turn down so many horses?
He came up to me and he goes,
that I wish I didn't.
He goes, I got a weird phone call. Someone wants to buy Tally. And my dad's
Weird.
like, everything's for sale. And he goes, I go, well, how much money? He goes, well, I didn't ask. I said, well, you probably should call back. Like, you need to get back on the phone call and find out what kind of number we're dealing with. And then he reached back out and they came up with a number that he's like, whoa, I didn't know that kind of existed. And I said, yeah, we need to entertain it because this could set up our future for a farm and everything else. So yeah, you turn away going to maybe representing the US, but they're horses. They
would have been for sure the best chance to go to the Rio games. And so
like in the show jumping world, like, everybody knows that horses at the highest level, the prices are astronomical into the multi-millions,
but they're not that,
especially the caliber. What is like the price range for the highest level eventing horses?
I mean, it's gone up now. It's starting to, but also like 5 years, 7 years ago, the price for FEI wasn't that much.
For a 5-star event.
You're looking at anywhere from 200 to $1 million, probably would be my best guess.
Yeah, which is way different than the show jump world.
Yeah.
But anyway, long story short, we ended up selling that horse. You give up your chance to go to Rio, but in the end, he allowed us to buy the property that we've now built out as our farm. It really set up our entire family business future, really. And it was a tough pill to swallow, but at the same time, we had some very talented horses coming up. It kind of killed a couple years worth of top tier competition, but it allowed us the ability to better develop the next ones coming up. And and I think on the jumping side, it is honestly a more efficient business model. I think it's a little more scalable. Sales are easier. Frankly, it's less demanding. How do you put this right? But basically in the eventing side, like, leasing doesn't exist because the risk of injury in the end in a subpar program is much higher than it would be in the jumping side.
Well, that's the same in the jumping. That's the same in show jumping a little bit, in regards, like, back when I had my training business, like, in general, amateurs and juniors that are less experienced and not a professional, that always are placing horses in the right positions and things like that, that takes a toll a little bit sometimes on the longevity of the horse's environment for sport. And I get that.
I think the most important thing when it comes to either a lease or a sale situation is we're looking for the absolute best home. Because frankly, we've owned a majority of these horses since they were weanlings, and they're, in the end, they're actually members of the family. And it's like, I am not willing to take a little extra to go to some place that I know they're going to just get run into the ground. It's
That's
just
so interesting that you guys have kind of taken on the model of breeding and owning and developing, whereas in the States, especially in the show jumping world, how difficult that is. It's expensive to compete. Yes, I organize horse shows. It's expensive to compete, and I understand that at the A circuit level and everything like that. So developing them can be difficult in the States compared to Europe. So that's interesting that you guys have taken on that model. Maybe it's different in the 3-day world, where you have a little bit more opportunity to develop them at a lower price point, or?
I was lucky enough in growing up, we started a lot of horses then, but the the thing that we come upon is that the top tier talented horses are either not for sale or if you are going to buy them, they're going to be extreme, right? So our only viable way to potentially get an Olympic caliber horse in our realm of budget, what we're able to do is to buy them young, and been lucky enough to develop a lot of horses to a top level. And in that way, I think the background in the dressage and eventing, I think, is hugely advantageous developing now the younger jumpers. We've got probably maybe the two best horses we've ever had are 5 and 6 now. And they're just wonderful. And I
They're
can't
for
wait
sale
to
or
see,
not for sale?
the core going to Kentucky, they're pretty awesome, but
She's like, they're for
that
sale.
next generation is going to be really super exciting.
Cool. That's awesome. Yeah, no, I've always wondered a little bit about, what the differences in industry wise for the business and everything like that. And I was just always curious as to how you guys built it and made it, honestly. And I think everybody would be curious about that. What I've also always found a little interesting correlating between 3-day and show jumping, the two different disciplines, even though they're similar in some respect, is the fan base also. And, I feel like this is not meant to boost your ego or anything here, but I feel like top, at least American, I don't know foreign that much, like, yourself and other top 3-day riders in North America and stuff, like, you guys are like rock stars to some people. Like, I know your social media followings are greater than top show jumpers here, even though globally show jumping is, I would think, more of a premier level sport than 3-day, just on a broadcasting and public experience level. But I find it so interesting that, like, the 3-day fan base, I have so much respect for, being involved in the Kentucky 3-day event and seeing it firsthand. I have so much respect for their dedication to viewing, spectating, experiencing, their level of dedication to all weather conditions. Like
Oh, they're all in.
they
They're all
are
in.
so much more extreme in the right ways than I would say show jumping fans are. That it's really awesome. And you guys have, like, that's what I feel like. I feel like you guys in your world are generally superstars, because you've made it.
I think it's a unique situation because they're this.
I think
I don't know how to put this well, but the barriers to entry to top tier eventing, if you want to be a 5-star event rider, talking to actually Roberto Turan, right? He's like, oh, maybe I'll get an event horse and I could represent.
Why do you keep
Columbia.
saying how do I put
No,
this?
and it would take him
correctly?
if you did this. If you just took if you took one horse,
People are gonna say.
one horse, and you never have a hiccup. The horse never has steps on a cliff or has an abscess in the wrong time, whatever. It's still going to take him 4.5 years
for Roberto to get to the top.
5-star. Now, Roberto has a skill set 100% to go do this tomorrow, right? Well, maybe not tomorrow, but very, very quickly. I mean, it's the nuance that is different in the eventing versus the jumping as far as what you're doing on course. Okay, there's a more stringent level of maybe accuracy in your line, but I wouldn't even know that that's 100%. It comes at you faster for a very short period of time, and the conditions dictate that you are extremely quick on your feet and adapt to when things don't go right, because even if you ride it dead perfect on the best horse in the world, something's going to go wrong.
A trip, and so this is whatever.
In that end, it becomes an instinctual test and a test of partnership, I think, with the horses. But a guy like Roberto could figure that out. I mean, it wouldn't be the end of the world. But I think the fan base, as you say, they also have gone through the struggle themselves in whatever level it is they're doing. And I think there's an ultimate level of understanding and respect. It's not a situation where somebody off the street can drop $5 million and get on a team. It'll never happen.
But they also, I think the fans are like so dedicated because they watch them along the way, and there's only 2 big 5-stars now. Before it was just Kentucky.
Right? Yeah.
So it used to be Kentucky. So everybody would plan their whole year around Kentucky. So all the fans would take the week off work. They would do everything, and they would put all of their stuff. And the shopping at Kentucky is amazing. So you go and you plan where you're going to shop, where you're going to eat, what are you going to do. So the fans do it. And so then every year you go as a child, as an adult, and you watch your favorite riders. And so it becomes like a whole family event.
Tradition.
Everybody loves it.
What a great point. I didn't think of it that way. And I know on other podcasts I have made these points and I'm going to keep making them. It's funny because in the competitive world of horse shows, like I've always said that I'm part of the problem in the quantity of horse shows, hunter jumper shows in the States, because I keep adding shows. But in general, like on a broadcasting sport side of it, you are so right. You hit the nail on the head. The fact that there is fewer high performance events like that in the 3-day world, absolutely, I would agree with, makes a big contribution to those fans and those spectators planning and attending those events, because when you dilute it and you have so many events in the United States and all these other things, then all of a sudden everything is diluted, not only the competitor side, but the fan base side. It's like picking which ones are you going to go to watch, which ones are you going to prioritize to watch and feed. So that totally makes sense
Well,
to
and
me.
it could change every year, right? Like for the show jumping and be
Yeah.
like, oh, let's go to this one. Let's hit up Fort Worth next year for you. Like that could be on the bucket list. But then the next year they do something else, where is it so consistent with the eventing that there are very few shows that you put on your bucket list to go spectate and watch. And so you put kind of that whole week forward.
But it's
to
the
it.
same. This is a frustration of mine in our sport, to be honest. And being on the horse show side, it's a catch-22 for me, right?
Yeah. How do you make it the one destination?
But if we're thinking about fans and spectators, which is specifically what we're kind of discussing at the moment, like I do think the direction first, like all other sports, when you have golf or tennis or these other type of sports that are regionalized, and in these towns, the top level comes to town once, or the top level is in a country once or twice a year, and these kind of things. So all the fans know to go and watch it, this kind of thing. And it's so important. And that's something that our sport doesn't do well. It doesn't do well. It doesn't laser focus the highest level, one location, one continent, 1 week, boom, give all the attention to there. I think it would make a big difference on eyes on and bringing new people like eyes on to the sport, but that's just me.
I'll give you a contrarian point of view too, though. So the most difficult thing with the eventing in your development is always chicken or the egg. You've got to be there to get enough experience that hopefully you can
We're talking
have
about
that base
fans
to draw from to do it.
No, he's talking about fans.
Oh no! Oh yeah.
Yeah, so he's saying fans.
I know, but this is the huge difference. Also, without a doubt, I know you're a fan, but this is such an important point. The first 5-star I did last year, I walked this Grand Prix and I was first in, of course, right? So you're squeezed on time, and
he's late. He's never late, Derek. And I'm looking like, oh no,
late, right? And so I'm like being late here, go in the ring. I must have had 5 down, whatever, right? And I freaking just basically overrode it, right? And to get out of the ring, and 2 main people that helped me out, and both of them were like, you just need to trust his scope. You just got to sit there, stop putting your leg on. I said, look, I'm walking out here looking like I'm jumping houses. Like I'm putting my freaking leg on. We got to get over the top of this thing.
Yeah.
And but the difference thing is that I was able to go literally the next week and jump another 5-star. And in the eventing world, when we were growing up, there was only one. So I had one chance a year, unless I was going to go over to Europe to do it. And so you make that mistake once, it is such a, I can't say this, it's a mind problem.
It's a mind.
But you do it once, and then all of a sudden you have to sit an entire year to think about how you messed it up. And then again, you go in, and the thing that I absolutely love with the jumping side is that, and in general, the group of riders that you're going with, and nobody cares if you make a mistake. And frankly, everybody's there like, well, hell, you made a mistake today, but you could win the class tomorrow. And in eventing, there's so much more focus on that individual performance because you have so few periods, so few opportunities to show where you're at.
But then the fans say,
but the fans obviously understand then the importance of each outing that you are going to have.
Yeah. Also, then the fans also, you get a lot of these younger riders that put the pressure on them because there is just so little opportunity that they have a whole year. Or, I mean, now you get 6 months, but like if we screwed up our first 5 stars, we were like sitting a year thinking about how you messed up. And it's hard when you're, in your 20s and 30s and like, or whatever age, honestly, you have a mess up, you don't get to go back again.
But
And so
that's a little bit the competitor side. That's why I wanted to preface
yeah, but
before you
even for
made
the fans, they realize like, but they then don't hook on a lot of the riders. They see the riders in their struggles and relate to the eventing too, because they do have to wait that whole year.
Yeah, I would say that of eventing athletes and stuff, they do a much better job at telling their story.
Yeah.
On social media, I think that that's really relatable. I think also it's in general a little bit more grassroots. Even at the lower levels, it is a bit more accessible in those ways. I think that that's a big factor to it, and that's great that everybody that loves horse sport or horses in general can really economically be as best they can a fan or dabble in it themselves. I think that plays a big factor in it. But I do agree, like, if you're a tennis fan or you're a golf fan, you have like one event a week that you go and you focus on, you watch, you do this, you do that. Eventing does a better job, similar to golf, like the Masters last week. Like,
oh my goodness,
your Kentucky is like the Masters, right? Of
100%.
3-day, and you're like, this is it. I'm watching this week of this year, and you're talking
Their
about
wives
like
are even glued to
the drama.
The wives are glued to the TV watching the Masters, and they don't see it for the rest of the year.
Cool, yeah. So interesting, just to get your take on why those things are those ways. And the other thing I noticed from your social media is that you guys fly everywhere in a little tiny itty bitty plane, like as a family. Like, I would be so mortified to do that. Why? How do you do that, and
you
why?
would love it.
You would.
It's like a gateway drug.
You would
I'll tell you
never
what.
get Michelle in that plane with you guys ever.
Well, so that my dad did fly, so I grew up in little planes because everybody asked, how did you get Jessica? Same thing.
Get her a bottle of wine, you'll be fine,
So just so everybody knows, Jess and Doug and their kids fly, I believe, pretty much everywhere, it looks like.
We tried
in this little itty bitty tiny plane, like looking down at the world. Like, it's ridiculous.
I give you the quick rundown how this all happened. So
you have a parachute?
I always thought
there's no parachute.
Oh, no parachute, no. No, but the way that the planes are not like helicopters. Like helicopters, something goes wrong, you fly like a rock, right? Planes, you land a plane by taking the power away. So they're able to glide. So ours can glide about 11.5 to 1. So if you're a mile up, you have really like a, 22-ish?
Still speaking foreign language.
I know. I'm like,
yeah, you've got a huge radius. Yeah, they will. You've got a huge radius of places you could put it down. And you would be shocked how many airports there are throughout the country. I mean, near enough every county has one.
Okay, but what if your like little baby wing snaps? Then you can't just put it down.
Baby wing's probably not snapping off. I mean, that's a very rare failure. Unless you're flying into a thunderstorm, things you don't mess with. Thunderstorms, ice, and fog.
I don't mean to enlist fear in you guys. I'm probably not going to, because you guys fly everywhere and you're obviously not afraid of that. But like, I don't know. Michelle and I would feel like would be afraid that like our whole thing is in that little tiny tube.
I mean, to be honest, this is terrible, but I'd much rather my whole family in it than just us.
Good point. Yeah. That's a scary thought.
I actually feel more scared driving on a highway than I do in the plane. Because in the plane, big sky theory, it's a huge space. You're not going to run into somebody. I mean, yes, you could, but it's very unlikely.
I guess it's the fear of the unknown. We're not, used to it like you guys are.
Yeah, and I got to say, you would appreciate this. One of my very, very good friends who unfortunately passed on way too early. He said, time is a thing you never get back in life. And he goes, these are time machines. And so without it, on a per mile basis, it's the same as driving a 350, what it costs us, right? And we would have saved last year 350 hours of the driving.
That's 9 weeks.
9 work weeks, whole time behind the wheel.
And
Anthony, write that timestamp down. We need this.
Yeah.
So the thing is with that, okay, maybe we wouldn't have taken all those trips. but Thanksgiving was very short. We were in the middle of a lot. I had taken a birthday trip. We went up to Nashville for a day and a half to see my family. We just wouldn't have taken that because I'm not going to drive 7 hours to Nashville, 7 hours back. But instead, we got to go spend a day and a half with my sisters and my dad, and my brother was in town. So for us, it's
or the great thing this winter we had the kids had a snow day. By the third day they were snowed out. We like seldom ever have snow in North Carolina, right? So it actually happened. We got to tube do the whole thing, but by day 3 I was like,
there's no snow on the ground. There's still no school.
But
get out of here.
We got to get these kids out of the house, right? And so we just flew up from here. You can fly up to Washington Dulles, and the Uverhazy Museum, Aerospace Museum, is on the property there. So you could fly in, free shuttle to the museum, free entrance to the museum, cruise back. We left at, call it noon. We were back by 4:30. Like had lunch up there.
It was
fun. You guys fly yourselves. That's so cool. I remember Mark Cuban saying, I think his first major purchase when he started making money was a private jet, and made him so much
efficient.
So we can't afford that.
Costs go exponential, but yes, I mean.
But you know what I mean? That's the same kind of analogy about time that you discussed earlier by how much time it gets you. And I think it's so cool. I feel like I would do it, but Michelle for sure wouldn't do it. She could
totally we're going to talk to her. We're going to hook this up.
Please. I want to get in on this.
I'll go to dinner somewhere else, and she'll realize she can go to dinner somewhere else and then be back home and not eat in Lexington.
If only she was a foodie. That's not the angle. Let's not go with that angle.
Okay, we'll go to the beach for her, and then she'll get back for the day.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, that's so funny. I know. I was just so curious because, man, even some of your posts look a little scary, but that's cool. I think it's pretty cool. Anyway, so what's your next week is, I don't know if this podcast goes out this week or next, but next week is the Kentucky 3-day event, which we're all so excited about. This year is looking like EEI calls it the best weekend all year. It looks like this is going to be the best one ever. It's pretty cool. Both the entries on the 3-day side and the entries on the newly upgraded 5-star show jumping Grand Prix as well look through the roof unbelievable. You, Doug, are competing in both, which is so freaking cool and so unique. Talk to us about a little bit your plan for next week, how many times you've done this event, what it means to you, whatever you think.
Yeah, so this year, this is a very first year that we've been in a situation where now we're completely done eventing. And so we have the 2 horses here that both jumped, I guess they jumped 3 5-stars last year jumping. This will be extremely relaxing comparison to every year past that we've done this.
Wait, you're not doing the eventing side?
No eventing at all. No.
Why didn't I know this?
You should have known this. So this is why we're here.
Yeah. Right? We're done. We have done. We've sold the last one.
Wait.
Mind blown.
Okay. So is this like an official announcement? Or is this just
I don't know if, I mean, people do know. People know that we've sold a bunch of them, and the one big 5-star horse got hurt last year. So
are we announcing right now that Doug Payne is no longer doing 3-day?
Yeah, I think in Wellington, it got broke this spring in Wellington.
It broke where? In conversation or publicly?
I mean, maybe
on the WEF review show.
Yeah, he did do it on the WEF.
Okay.
There's been a couple.
So
but in Kentucky, that we're definitely, I mean, I think there is still some misunderstanding that we are still showing in the 5-star at Kentucky for the eventing side, but this is the first year. No, we are just on your side this time.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Times are changing.
Yeah.
We'll get into that next. Don't let me forget. We're going to get into that next, but yeah, give us some background on the 3-day and obviously what this event has meant to you over the years and stuff like that.
Yeah, there's
you just dropped the bomb.
We've sort of hit on it, but yeah, this is the Super Bowl basically of US eventing, and it has such a huge international draw. Maybe the Masters is a better analogy because you have a bunch of very sort of top tier, absolute, the best of the best from Europe coming as well. There is in looking at that field, it's extremely strong, and there is some, very, very strong competitors that it'll be extremely exciting to watch them sort of hash it out to see who can come out on top. But
the Europeans are bringing up
some really unbelievably good stuff.
horses.
So in that way, we're absolutely looking forward to.
Has that event on the 3-day side has always been your yearly goal, right? Or
Yes.
what? Like, so that's how big it is. Like, this is
it.
your pinnacle. This is your
you and
feature.
all
This
can
is
make
your
it
grand
happen.
slam.
Yeah, if you can all make it happen, you're doing it. And the nice thing that they did in the last however many years, they also brought in the 4-star short. So that's a slightly shorter competition, but I think that has actually been instrumental in bringing and developing horses to the international stage. Because without that, you didn't really have a chance to expose those younger horses that are developing to all of the atmosphere that is Kentucky. And you would seldom
Seems like
see
that's
that.
been a hit.
Yeah, no, it's been amazing. It's been amazing because you don't, aside from Kentucky, Badminton, Burley, Lemulin, I guess probably, and maybe Poe, but aside from that, you're not really going to see that crowd, that intensity.
I mean,
And for the horses, it can be overwhelming for the first time with you. So
the first couple times,
it's amazing.
The first couple times, just to give a background, you'd have a greener horse, and a lot of the riders that had multiple horses, they bring a greener horse and do the dressage. And if the cross country looked too much, they'd withdraw it, because just to even get them to that stage, if they're borderline, ready, they'd take the advantage of it and say, hey, look, we're going to take them, do just the dressage, and then, plan for the next year. Because if they're green and they're not sure of it, walking into that stadium is a lot. And so, yeah, the 4-star, having it there, you could put that greener horse in that situation, put them on the cross country for the first time with those hills. It's very hard as a, first time rider to understand when the horse is pulling up that back half, like they can be tired, and how to manage the horses. That now with the 4 short, I think it really does help the development of not just the horses, but the riders.
Wow. Yeah. Cool. I mean, definitely there's, it's the pinnacle, and it's like you said, there's only 2 5-stars, and for the longest time, it was the only 5-star on this continent. Right. So that's why it's been able to develop into such an unbelievably incredible and traditional event over the years. But now that you guys dropped that bomb on me, that you are no longer doing the discipline of 3-day. Like, I knew we have talked about this over the years, that the sport has been transitioning into this. You thought we've had this conversation a lot, that maybe, it's a little, call it controversial, whatever you want to say, but like, that maybe the sport of 3-day has a lifespan, a certain, end date in general, with everything that's been going on in the world and stuff like that. So did that factor into your decision? Like, why, be honest, why have you made the switch to hunter jumper or show jumping from 3-day altogether?
For us, it's a laundry list of sort of,
well, we got time,
factors that go into it, right? Number one, we have 2 kids now. They're 5 and 7. So they're just getting to the stage now where they can really actually go do things and want to play a part in their lives, obviously. And with that, with doing both sports, which I think we were doing sort of FEI level for the past, 8 years solid with 2 strings of horses. We were on the road 40 to 45 weeks a year. And so we were able to cut that back nearly in half by just jumping. I think for on the sport side, it's definitely challenging, without a doubt. I've been on a safety committee for the U.S. Eventing Association for, up until this year, I don't know, long time. And there has been an incredible wave of safety innovation. But I think in the end, you can't legislate safety. And I think the world that we're going towards, it's harder and harder because, I bring up aviation, but you look at aviation accidents, every time something happens, instantly it's worldwide headlines. And actually, if you look at the data right now, we're actually lower in aviation crashes year to date than we were last year.
But you
wouldn't know it. You'd think every plane's falling out of the sky. And I think the pressure there, I think often eventing gets looped in with racing, and I think racing is under tremendous pressure. So for us, looking into it and having gone, we'd been at it a long time, and lucky enough had a Quantum Leap was the USEF national champion there at Kentucky in third, got to go to Olympic Games, Pan Ams. There's so much opportunity throughout Europe, Nations Cups, that sort of stuff that, about, probably 6 or 7 years ago, we decided, okay, the next crop of babies that we're going to buy, they're just going to be strictly jumping bred. And we figured we'd take the group that we had until they were done eventing, whenever that might be, sort of indefinite timeline. And we just kind of ran to the point where Quantum unfortunately had a hawk that was fusing. And the really annoying part is that the medial side is perfect, the lateral is not great, and as a cross country, it was just asking too much of him. Now he's at home here, sound, happy. He's going to end up probably for the short term least as a meter 20, meter 30 horse, and then he's got a home for life. So if our kids later on want to ride him, I would love nothing more than that. He's given us more than anything. I think that horse is in 7 5-stars. He's in top 10 like 6 times. It's ridiculous.
But in the last 2 years, our business kind of changed as well.
But our location is such that the jumping side is in more demand. And
so when it came down to it,
it was just
Quantum's out.
A lot of factors. So Quantum's out, and the next crop was coming, but they were still a couple years off. And then it starts to be diminishing returns on the eventing side. So it's a huge outlay of capital to get the horses to the top tier, but it's a lot more expensive. And then all of a sudden, because of the demand on the client side that we had here, we're giving away jumping dates and times. So it's like, okay, we're throwing away money on the
eventing
potential client side. No, as far as potential revenue side, and we're blowing it down a hole on the expense side. And it's just
your 2 points are great. I mean, the family thing is I definitely wanted to talk to you about family dynamic today. We don't have to do it at length, but it's such an important point that you have to make some difficult decisions to say, where do we want. Michelle and I have made the same sort of decisions, and especially with our riding and the way we're doing horse shows and stuff like that, and tweaking our business to make sure that we're there and available for our family and our kids. It's so important. And everybody's individual, every family's individual, everybody makes it work in their own way that's feasible. But I respect that priority that you guys made for sure in that regard. And on the sports side, I'd say that it seems like you've been working at it for years to make this transition. You've been sort of building up your level in the show jumping side, and looking back on it, like I can tell that this moment has been coming for you because you've been showing so much more in the high level show jumping and everything like that. And I was just curious to hear, and I'm sure everybody is curious to hear what that looks like and why. And I think in general, horse sport in general is under a lot of scrutiny nowadays. I know that the horses in our stables at the highest level, and the care that we give them, and you guys give them, is better than we care for ourselves. And we know that when we're talking a horse welfare standpoint and longevity standpoint, that these animals are given the absolute best life that they possibly can give. And of course there are exceptions out there, but so it's hard because, I definitely see it going in a difficult direction in the media side and that take on it. But it's not often. There are a few out there. I know a couple top show jumpers out there that go from 3-day to show jumping, but in reverse order, not many show jumpers go to the 3-day side. I've seen a couple over the years go to the 3-day side and make it to the top. But I think that's pretty huge to just completely switch like that. But it seems like you guys have methodically thought it out and been strategic with the timing.
Appreciate the feedback. It's I think with all, how do I describe motivation the most? I've always been motivated, the sort of deep down and core. I think it's probably going back as a kid in Pony Club, you kind of did all disciplines. I always wanted to be able to show up at a show of any discipline and not get tagged as an outsider, basically. And so with that, the eventing background foundation, I think, has so many positives that can help the horses. But the nuance and the type of horse when jumping is without a doubt polar opposite. And so there's, over time and working very, very hard to honestly try to trust them, smooth it out, try to be as soft as possible and allow them to jump even better. Because frankly, in an event horse, you have to protect the front end. You can have a marginal hind end, and that's going to be perfect. If you have an event horse with a crazy good hind end, that's actually going to get you in more trouble. You'd rather have one that's like lightning quick and potentially going to trail a little and have a rail behind. But understanding, I mean, somebody could tell you all day long, but understanding in the ring or just the feel for what you're looking for is it's difficult, and it's been a big challenge. And I'm not going to say I've got it dialed in yet, but I think we're far closer now than I've ever been before. And
taking the eventing side out for the last 6 months has probably helped, because you're not having to go.
Because you're not reinforcing the what now are bad habits. They were good habits when you were eventing, but now
well, in
this
modern
application,
show jumping sport, the horses are very different than they were 15 years ago as well.
Yeah.
So, when you're talking about like what's the modern correct type, for everybody has their own type of feeling of what's right and wrong, but the modern type is you have to be electric fast in front. You almost have to want the horse to protect the front if it has enough quality and things like that. In the show jumping world, you have to be super quick and catty and fast to compete and score. So things are always evolving and stuff. So it's definitely a different type of horse for sure than the 3-day side.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, without a doubt. It's but in that way it's so fresh. And I mean, okay, it's not new. We probably have working on just about 250 FEI starts now. So it's not that it's brand new, but it's still a totally fresh challenge where eventing, not to say kind of been there, done that, but you've done it so many times, developed them from babies to 5-star. You knew that sort of nearly every iteration, what could go good, bad, whatever. And this is still you're still learning
But
every
I
time
also
out,
think, I know you've done a lot of FEI stuff, and I know this is not new to you at all. You've done it at the highest level. I don't mean it like that, but I do believe that when you're, I tried to do horse shows and riding at the same time, and that didn't go well. Okay. So I saw a decline in my riding that I couldn't internally cope with. And so that's when I said, okay, what's better for my family? What direction are we really headed in? What am I really good at? That kind of thing. I do think that now that you're laser focused on show jumping and stuff, you're going to see a much quicker trajectory, and you're over when you look at the span of you're a top rider already, but when you look at the span of a 12-year, you're going to look back at your results. I think now that you're making it a focus, and realistically, they're going to be better because your mind is going to be on one thing. And
there's nothing that replaces time in the ring either. And we did the craziest thing. We did a deep dive over Suburban, searching the FEI database. So I'm going up on, I've got like 230 starts, I think, FEI total, all levels, right?
Show jumping and 3-day? Or
no, this is just jumping. Just jumping.
Okay.
And Kent has over 1,000 5-star alone starts. Right? 1,000. So his life experience is 4 times greater than mine only in 5-stars. That's not counting 4, 3, 2, 1, whatever. I mean, it's just astounding. And then McLean's like at 750 team starts. So like for the entirety of my FEI career, I could envision every single one of those being a team start and then multiplying by 3.
Well, and that's the thing is honing your craft and experience level and stuff is everything. And you're constantly learning new variables and all these things. It's a huge factor for sure.
So it's motivating, and we love it. We love it. And again, it's the same. We're getting the same out of this as we did for the eventing, is that the like the babies coming up now, and what Quintessence we had since he was 4. Like they're all members of the family too. And so now to get to see them really get out there and do something special is even more rewarding.
Well, now that you guys completely announced and dropped a monster bomb on me and everybody else that you completely switched away from 3-day, I am going to officially add you guys, which I didn't out of me just looking out for you guys. I didn't add you to the autograph session because I figured you'd be racing around a cross country course at that time. So I didn't even add you to the list next week. So 12:30 autograph session. Plan it
On Saturday?
on Saturday.
Perfect.
Yes, perfect.
Okay, so definitely want you there for that. I'll have everybody be in touch with you on those details. But that's awesome now that you can do that, because I'm sure you're gonna have the biggest line. That's for sure. Not these other guys. And so awesome. That's huge. So now I'm gonna put you guys a little bit on the spot. Like, this podcast is, meeting people in the industry, talking about different topics that are controversial and fun, all the above. But I got to ask you, because, I do horse shows, and this is HorseShow360 podcast. Like, what things do you think I should, or events or horse shows, change? What don't you like about events that are still bugging you? Because I know you guys are detail oriented.
I have such a top tier quote. Number one priority.
Oh, we got a list. I'm writing this down.
Number one.
Get out of question first.
I don't know.
Okay, let's go.
You guys actually do a very good job.
Who's you guys?
Split
Rock.
Right?
Oh, okay. Split Rock.
With the hard starts on the times, right? So that does alleviate a lot of conflict and makes things easier.
So that's important to you, is like being organized start times.
Doesn't have to be, but your app is also quite good. And Showgrounds Live does an awesome job. Every show that does not use either Showgrounds or yours is a nightmare, because you're in 8 different places and you're constantly calling the gate guys.
Advertising that clip.
Yeah, you gotta redo that.
Okay, but so frustration for you at a lot of events are being organized, start times, and the
start
technology
times, just having an awareness
that event is implementing.
Yeah, exactly. You have to have an awareness of what's happening at all times. I think between you guys have alleviated it with obviously the live ring status, which is wonderful, and you have hard starts on your classes, which makes things a lot easier. Showgrounds Live does an amazing job too.
What? Stop. We're starting over. We're not mentioning Showgrounds Live. I'm going to start for the third time.
Hold on. We're going to redo it. Okay.
It's okay. You can, I mean, I got him now. They are competitors to the platform that I use, which is Equestrian Digital.
I'm totally cool.
He's good. We'll ask what we're talking about.
Okay.
He's on a roll.
Okay.
Well, I don't care. You can talk about horse.
Yeah, I'll just
no. He'll go.
It's totally cool.
Okay.
So I think that to me as a trainer, when we bring a whole bunch of horses to a competition and we have a bunch of people that we're trying to help, you want to be there for all of them. And shows that don't have an app with either live ring status or hard start times makes it extremely challenging. And I think in the end, I would expect the guys in the gate are annoyed as well.
It's a guessing game versus a real strategic planning.
Guessing game. And then you're constantly on the phone, calling the gate guy, oh, what's happening now? What's happening? And all of a sudden they got to hold, but they're not going to instantly hold, call you. It just makes everything chaotic.
Keep in mind, horse shows know who you are.
Yes.
Out there, people. If you
they
are
know
somebody,
Doug will be
not
at the
you
ring
guys,
first.
but if you guys, we have lists of people that we know are going to hold up the rings and stuff. So if you're one of those people, listen to this and get with it.
Absolutely.
Please.
Nothing drives me crazier than an open gate. It just drives me absolutely nuts. So
so we got start times and the tech aspect of it. What else?
Yeah, I think
you said you had a big list.
If the tech is sufficient, the start time is not as critical. But and then there's often places that you show that either the cell service or the Wi-Fi doesn't work.
So
and then the tech's gone. And that gets even more frustrating. And, you might spend, I don't know what a Wi-Fi mesh, we put one around the farm here. It was only a couple $100. Like, okay, you have to expand it to a showground, but you're going to spend $5,000 somewhere, spend it on good infrastructure so that you actually, everybody that's at your show knows what's actually happening, you know?
Yeah, that's more tech, I would consider it.
Yeah,
What
more
else you
tech.
got? What else
But
you got?
then, and Doug doesn't like the people that are waiting there and holding up all the arenas because they're having lunch. And we're like, we'd like to have lunch, but we're sitting there waiting on you. So but you guys do a great job in the sense of like kind of making it and getting after it.
Are you talking about it on the other exhibitor side? Or are you talking about it the horse show staff side?
On both kind of. Like it's just the fact that when you're
So,
waiting
like,
on someone.
Horse show, let's call it this. And I've been thinking about doing a podcast about this, but I'm going to be careful.
Little controversy.
We'll call it horse show respect.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's great.
Horse show respect on both sides, like common courtesy.
Yep.
You know, understanding that if you're being nonchalant about something on a ring start time and you're holding up other people, that's a horse show respect thing. Same thing for an in-gate person to be courteous to the exhibitors to make sure that they know where they're supposed to be and when, and help them execute their plans. It goes both ways.
Well, and if you're new and everything, like most of the people are generally friendly. Like if you're back on the respect, if you're confused or you're not really sure, just ask somebody. Like I'm, a trainer and everything else. Just ask me like what it is, how many out are you? The people that I'm 2 out and I'm like, okay, I need to jump. And they're like, that it's just the respect of the horse show would be huge for everybody.
There are
and I think
so many things I could get into on this topic that maybe I'll have you guys back on something.
100%.
Because horse show office, in-gates, there's so many things that I wish we could talk about in this hour, but I'm also concerned and worried about, what people think about that topic. Okay, what else? You said you had a big list. I got my pen and paper.
I love how Split Rock does their donuts and carrots. I think that's big. That's a huge hit. That's a huge hit.
So what things don't you like at a horse show?
I know one thing you don't like.
I want to know what you don't like.
I know what he doesn't like.
What do you hate about horse shows?
He doesn't like that the prize money is not applied.
Oh, hate that.
This year they are.
Oh, that's great.
Okay.
That is great.
Split Rock.
There you go.
Last year we started. It's been a big thing for a lot of people. You're not alone. We deduct prize money from your show bill at all shows. Split Rock.
I love that.
That's a huge one because that is a big one. That was a
a huge. I mean, honestly, that's a huge stress for like someone like us. We have a bunch of horses, and if you can, our goal is to try to zero it out for the week at least, right? If you can make something on top, great.
I used to not do that for accounting purposes, but we figured it out.
Perfect.
So what else? You don't have anything like, God, the footing sucks, or which is normal.
Because
Split Rock's pretty good about that.
Yeah.
See, but I think this is where you're good with the 3-day because you guys are used to riding your horses on all terrains, so you are more flexible on the ground.
Yeah, that part. Yeah, that doesn't riding everywhere, like on different terrains. That doesn't really bother us. Like the footing's good and everything.
I'm gonna say it like at home. Our horses are only in the ring 3 days a week, maybe. We're in the field. We've got honestly a great hill that we go on, and frankly, we're out there more than we're in the ring. So yeah, I think varied terrain is advantageous.
Anything else you guys completely dislike about horse shows that you wish you saw changed or could be done different or better? I feel like you guys are being too nice.
Late Sundays. That's tricky.
Oh, yeah, that's
we were at one a couple weeks ago.
And the Grand Prix was like 2:30
on a Sunday.
To get home.
Sunday. And the last part of the week.
Actually, it felt bad because there was actually classes running out after that till like 5:30 on the Sunday. I'm like, okay, there's a lot of people that are leaving.
And I don't think the ring started till like 8:30. I'm like, I'd much rather start at 7:30.
Throw some of the other classes in
a different ring. Yeah.
Okay, good points. Awesome. Yeah, well, the tech is something that, we've made a major focus on at Split Rock. We use a partner called Equestrian Digital that actually has helped us for many, many years. They've developed a complete back-end office system as well to compete with Showgrounds that now is being used for the first time last year, a couple of years ago, at a number of other major events. We use Equestrian Digital, so a couple other events have started to pick it up. Obviously, it's not mainstream, sort of like Showgrounds is, but we've tried to accommodate that for the end
Yeah,
user.
but it could be because there's a huge need across a lot of other venues. We'll leave it at that.
The Equestrian Digital, I did just enter Kentucky. I entered through it and used it for the first time, and it was actually really easy to use. So that was great.
Yeah, that's how you enter all of our events, actually. Our app is sort of linked to that, and they built it for us, so it's definitely intertwined. I
will say that the thing that Showground or said that your app does so well that it's going back as far as partnerships with horses. We've got
this is good and bad.
Well, the app is free.
Good and bad.
The app is free too, which is a huge part. Because Showgrounds, if you want to get the app, you have to pay a lot for it.
Yeah.
No, yes, your app is free.
But where I'm going with that is the owners or partners or clients that maybe they can't get there till the Friday and the horse goes on a Wednesday, being able to tag a rider or a horse for the video, for the live stream is awesome.
Except for because
that's when it goes wrong, right? When you fall off or something, you're like, I wish that wasn't done.
But 99% of the time, we're happy that we can include the people that are at the house and they can tag, the riders, they can tag a trainer, they can tag their kids, and they can watch and be there, because that is the nice thing that not most horse shows just live stream the main ring. And in our situation with you guys, you usually do a lot more arenas so that they can watch everybody.
Yeah. I mean, it's super important. It's definitely an aspect that people need. Well, cool. I thought your list was, the way you started that, I thought your list was going to be
I was a little worried too.
Oh, no, the tech thing just drives me insane because it leads to instant inefficiency everywhere.
Sure.
And
awesome.
It's just brutal.
Cool. Well, guys, I appreciate it so much for you guys being on this podcast today. I'm sure we'll do many more, and we're excited to see you next week in Kentucky, just doing show jumping.
Just jumping.
Awesome. And everybody, if you're listening and tuning into this, Doug will be at the autograph session 12:30 on Saturday.
Yeah, come on down
at the USHJA booth. So I'm going to add him to the list. So really, really, really cool. Thank you everybody for tuning into another episode of HorseShow360 podcast, joined here by Doug and Jess Payne. Don't forget to tune in on all your podcast platforms, whether it be iHeart, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or anywhere you listen in. Also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button on our YouTube channel, HorseShow360 Podcast. And we hope you all keep tuning in. Thanks so much.